started writing a novel this month and you're trying to complete it before the summer rolls around. The reason we love to hear authors talk about their craft is because we want there to be some secret behind the curtain. In this video, I'm going to be talking to you about some of the ways that I'm gamifying the process. I've worked on large-scale critical projects before, and these are just some of the things that have kept me accountable. So whether you're a first-time novelist like me and you're trying to figure out how can I keep my brain engaged, how can I stay focused on this project even when it's boring or hard, or if you're a seasoned fiction writer and you're looking for a way to breathe some new life into your process, this video is also for you. Allow yourself to play with different formats. So my background in writing is in poetry and playwriting, and when I was working on completing my first full-length play, I was given the advice that you should try and write a first-person prose piece inside the minds of all of our characters. And so now that I'm working on a novel, I've never worked in fiction before, and one thing that is really gamifying the process for me is allowing myself the play of working with different mediums. So yes, this November I'm trying to write a zero draft. That is my goal. But it builds my momentum if I'm able to play in different formats. So maybe you write a poem that reveals the interiority of your setting as if the setting was speaking in a poem. What kind of language would a place use if a place had access to language? Or maybe you're going to write your scenes in the form of a play. This gives you a chance to really think about dialogue and space and physicality in a way that if you're better at narrating interiorities, could be really beneficial for you. There's this concept in theory where there's the chronological events, the timeline, and then there's the way it's narrated. And they're two different elements. I am writing scenes in a play format that have a different chronological organization than the narrative order of my novel. But what I'm finding is that allowing myself to take a break from my draft and go spend time tinkering in this other format actually gives me a lot of clarity. What's distinctive about fiction is the interplay between the exterior and the interior. And a play, yes, it can reveal interiority, but never with the same closeness as a novel. And so for me to be able to fine-tune that exterior that I have more prowess and skill in and experience in, and take that and have that clear in my mind when I go into trying to narrate that fine line between interior and exterior experiences, allowing myself to experiment in different forms, actually gives me the speed and the vigor and the energy I need to be able to complete such a huge undertaking as a zero draft. I do a lot of my work on a laptop. I'm a grad student, so I write my notes for class, I write my lesson plans, I write my course assignments. When I go to write my creative projects, if it's on the same laptop where I'm doing all my work all day, I can't always enjoy the process. And yes, I want to get words on the page, but also it's really important to me that this is sustainable. My end goal is one draft amongst many. So what I have chosen to do for my very first draft, for my zero draft, is to handwrite. Now, I went to the store, I got a notebook. I don't personally like to decorate my notebooks, but if you do, you might get some collaging materials and cut out images and tape them down, like to give a laminating effect, or use stickers. And this is my dedicated notebook for my zero draft, and my only goal is filling up this notebook. So I chose a notebook that was around the size that for my handwriting I knew that it would be about the equivalent to the number of type pages I would want for a zero draft. That's how I would suggest you winnow out and choose the correct journal for this challenge. Choose something that's reasonable but still sort of a stretch for you to finish, and allow that feeling with each day of getting closer to the back of the book to motivate you, to excite you. And there is just something really special about handwriting, especially if you're somebody who works on a laptop all day. To have the precision of the mind to hand connection makes the process of writing meditative, and when you sink into that meditative flow state, you're able to get more done and your prose comes out lovelier. But if you're somebody who doesn't necessarily work on a laptop all day, my suggestion to you would be to actually set up whatever document you're working on a little bit differently. I heard a writer say on LitHub that they journaled every day and they held themselves to 1,000 words every day, but they'd actually set up their document rather than portrait landscape. They split it into 2 pages per screen, and then they put it in a typewriter font because it totally shifted the journaling work from their creative writing work. And you can apply a principle like this to your own life. So if you do a lot of computer work in Word documents and Times New Roman, in collaborative web pages like Google Docs, you might actually, for your creative writing practice this month, play around with the page format, play around with the font, use focus mode on Word, turn your Wi-Fi off. Anything you can do to make the blank page a novelty, to re-inspire you to bring things from the ether and put them on the page. My next idea for you is actually habit tracking, and I have tried a million habit tracking apps. I've tried the tree ones, I've tried the little bird things. I've tried a lot. And for me, the thing that works best ultimately is just a basic spreadsheet. You know, I keep track of 3 habits. Personally, that's what I like to do. And I log them each daily. And this allows you to really see how many pages, how many days you're able to be consistent. And there's something so satisfying about, even if it's like literally 1 page was written, being able to write that one on in your log for the day. And so I log by page count because I'm writing in a journal like I mentioned, but you could log by words typed, you could log by hours spent in front of the page, and hours might even be a better goal. It's like when you're learning to run, how people encourage you to don't necessarily put 3 miles as your goal, because then you're gonna push yourself to do that even if you haven't built up the stamina or the strength, and instead you would be better served telling yourself, I'm gonna run for 10 minutes and just be happy with as much as you can get done in that 10 minutes, and slowly add time, and you'll find yourself going faster at a more sustainable, physically feasible, incremental way. So I would recommend time if that works for you. For me, the page count works, and then at the end of the month you get to total up how many days you spent writing, which is surprisingly really fun. And I think this is good because it encourages you to prioritize discipline, but prioritize discipline not in a nefarious way, but in a way that builds self-trust and that gives you the freedom to pursue your goals with all the vigor you have inside. And my brain, in and out. I couldn't tell you what I did over the weekend. It is really nice to have a physical record or a digital record, something that you can actually look at and see, hey, I am getting closer to my goals, and it might not feel like it. Mentally, I might be hard on myself, but I can see the evidence that I have logged this time, and with writing a novel, it's a product of time more than anything else. Next up is actually going to be to try different routines. If you're somebody who's a perfectionist, who's really hard on yourself, that is probably, if you're like me, keeping you from the page because you're so critical of what you're writing and the gap you see between the words you're putting down and the books you love. But if you can make it a little bit silly and overcome that barrier to entry, that cognitive load of self-judgment, you're going to be able to get this project done. So how do you do that? Well, for me, yes, it's a matter of writing things I know to be silly or bad, because I'm actually challenging myself to do that, to get literally anything on the page, and that's my goal, not necessarily to write something perfectly polished. But another way I like to facilitate this overcoming of perfectionism is by automating the process through emulating other writers' specific habits. So I read Catherine Lacey and her Substack saying that she likes that for a period of time she tried waking up at 5 a.m., writing till 7, going to sleep, and then starting her workday by getting up again around 9. And I really like that idea, and you might have to convert it for your specific work schedule. Yes, you can stick to one defensible time if your brain works like that, but yes, it's also okay to study the writers you love and try the processes they love out just to keep yourself motivated to get the words on a page. And I think another component of this is actually like allowing yourself to write like someone you love. So not write like in terms of like write at 5 p.m. till 2 a.m., but actually write like as in, what can I emulate about this passage I love, about the tone, the voice, the style of this passage I love. And you might be scared that, oh, you're not being truly original, truly creative if you're just borrowing, but actually, at least for me, giving myself some specific challenge to chew on, and for me, the specific challenge of converting something stylistic that I love into my project, into my own voice and perspective, that can be really energizing. And just the next idea I have for you is about challenging yourself. I specifically like to use physical motivators, so a Pomodoro clock that you twist to a certain time and you watch it dial down. Sometimes I like to take a candle and wait until it burns down. You have to keep writing until it burns down. Or you could freeze your coffee the night before into ice cubes and put your ice cubes in your cup and say, I have to write till this melts down into the cold brew that I want to drink. Or writing till the sun sets, or writing till the sun rises. All those sort of like physical reminders of time passing can be really motivating because you don't want to stop until, you see the physical reward. And our brains are just kind of wired like that sometimes. And this leads me to my final idea for you, which is actually kind of the opposite, but I'd also encourage you, if you're someone that's really an outliner, why don't you try pantsing for a scene and see what happens? Just allow yourself to bring in that randomness, to draw in a character who totally disrupts the frame, who you hadn't played before. If you're a pantser, why don't you try creating a little outline? Even if that's just a one-page summary of what's going to happen in your story. In reality, the truth is, the only thing that gets your book written is writing. And so the way to do this is quite simple. It's really just about choosing a defensible time in your day. Sometime every day that you're not going to be interrupted, that you're going to be able to get words on the page. Sometime you're actually going to have the clarity of mind. Don't choose the morning if you hate the morning. Don't choose the afternoon if you're not an afternoon person. Work with your body, work with your mind, and sit there and do it. So I hope something in here has given you a clue of some way you might gamify your process a little bit to keep pushing through this November. And so whenever you